Hello dear students, welcome to the second session of the topic verbs. Well, in our previous session we had learnt what is a verb, what is the role of a verb, and we had also seen a few examples. So what is a verb? Verb is an action word. A verb which we use to denote an action in a sentence. And I had told you that verbs are mainly divided into two kinds based on the function or based on the role they play in a sentence. They are main verbs and auxiliary verbs. In the previous session, we had discussed main verb in detail, where I had told you what is a main verb and I had also given few examples for main verbs. We had seen that a principal verb can take only 5 different forms: base form, present participle, past tense, past participle, third person singular form. So these are the only 5 forms that a verb can take. We had discussed all these things, and I had also given you few examples for base form, past tense and past participle. When I was concluding my session, I had told you that in principal verbs, you can have 2 different kinds of verbs. In principal verbs, you will have 2 kinds of main verbs: regular verbs and irregular verbs. So in our previous session, we have not touched this regular and irregular verbs. 2 forms of verbs, regular and irregular. So let's see what are regular and irregular verbs, and what is the difference between regular and irregular, and how can you make the difference between regular verbs and irregular verbs. It's not so difficult to make difference between regular and irregular form. In order to identify regular and irregular verbs, in order to understand the difference between regular and irregular verbs, we should know the difference between regular and irregular verbs. So let's study more about regular and irregular verbs. 2 forms of verbs. One is regular verbs and irregular verbs. How can we identify the regular and irregular verbs? So here you have a clear-cut difference between regular verbs and irregular verbs. Let's see. Regular verbs will always take D, T, ED and IED form to change to past tense. To change to past. So regular verbs use suffixes like D, T, ED and IED to change to past. Okay, you have a verb. So using the same verb, if you want to construct a sentence in past tense, that particular verb will have any of these suffixes in order to change itself into the past form. And what are irregular verbs? These irregular verbs do not use suffixes like D, T, ED or IED to change to past. So this is the only difference between regular and irregular verbs. Regular verbs, they use suffixes D, T, ED and IED to change to past, whereas irregular verbs do not take or do not use any of these suffixes in order to change to past tense. So now I hope you have understood the difference between regular and irregular verbs. Let's now see a few examples for regular verbs and irregular verbs. So I believe that if you observe this table and the examples that I am going to give, you can easily make the difference between regular verbs and irregular verbs. I have already told you that regular verbs use suffixes D, T, ED and IED, whereas irregular verbs do not use any of these suffixes in order to change themselves into past tense. Let's see a few examples. Here I have written beg. So when we have to change this verb into past, this takes the ed form, like begged. So the same verb that has been used in the past tense can be used even in the past participle. Same. So beg, begged and begged. Here the word beg has taken ed form. So the suffix ed has been used for the verb beg and it has become begged in the past tense and begged even in the past participle. Next, copy. So this verb copy will have IED form when this is changed into past. Copy, copied, and the same copied even in the past participle. Next, marry. This verb marry will have the suffix IED in order to change to past tense, and it is same even in the past participle married. Skip. The verb skip will have ed form to change to past. So skipped, skip, skipped and skipped. Next you have spend. Spend, spent. Here the verb spend has taken the suffix t to change to past. Spend, spent and spent. Sleep, slept and slept. So here the verb sleep has taken t, the suffix t to change to past. Let's now see the examples for irregular verbs. So irregular verbs do not use any of these suffixes to change to past. Then how are they going to change their form to past? Let's see. So here I have written begin. So as I told, these verbs which come under irregular form or the irregular verbs do not use any of the suffixes like d, t, ed and ied. Here how are they going to change? Begin becomes began. Begin becomes began in the past, and in the past participle it becomes begun. Begin, began, begun. Next one is break. So you should not use breaked in the past. This word break will not have ed form. This is not breaked in the past, but break, it is broke. Break, broke and broken in the past participle form. If you say I break the window in the present tense, it becomes I broke the window in the past, which means the action of breaking that window has already been completed when you use in the past, when you use it in the past tense. When you say I break the window, you are going to do that in the present tense. It is used in the present tense. You are about to do that work. You are about to do that action. But whereas when you construct the same sentence using the same verb but in the past tense, the action has already been completed. As we all know, broken is used in perfect tenses. So with this verb, you can say I have broken the window. If you say I have broken the window, you have constructed that sentence in present perfect tense. I have broken, or in the past I had broken that window. So like that you have to construct. It is not breaked. Okay. Next, choose. It becomes chose in the past tense and chosen in the past participle. Choose, chose and chosen. Next is come, came, come. So here you have to be careful. It is not came in the past participle, but it is come. Only in the past tense it changes, like came. Come, came, come. For example, I come to college. If you say I come to college, in the past tense it is I came to college. Okay, in the present tense I come to college, in past tense I came to college, whereas in the present perfect or in the past perfect it is I have come to college. This is I have come to college, it is in the present perfect tense, whereas I had come to college is in past perfect tense. Next is fall. Again, while using this particular verb, many of us will say falled. So we'll just add ed form to this particular verb, but it is a wrong usage. Fall, it is fell in the past tense and fallen in the past participle. Next is sing. Sing. I sing a song in the present tense. I sang a song in the past tense, and I have sung a song. I had sung a song in the past perfect tense. So, sing in the present tense, sang in the past, and sung in the past participle. With the past participle form of this verb sing, with that you can say that I have sung a song, which is in present perfect tense, or I had sung a song, which is in past perfect tense. So, I hope you have understood the difference between these regular and irregular verbs. So, regular verbs take these d, t, ed and ied form, ied, these suffixes in order to change to past, whereas irregular verbs, they don't take any of the suffixes, but the entire form of these verbs have been changed when they are written in the past or when they are used in the past tense. So, in the last session we had discussed about 5 principal parts of verb: base form, present participle, past tense, past participle, and third person singular form. I am going to give you sentence example for these 5 forms. So, I will just take one verb from regular and another one from irregular, and I am going to give you the sentence examples for those 5 principal parts of verbs that we discussed in the previous session. I'll first take a verb beg. So, I'll take this verb beg from the regular verbs, and so if you were to construct a sentence using this verb in the base form or in the present tense, we can say we beg him for money. We beg him for money. This is in present tense or in the base form. Next is third person singular form. So, when it comes to third person singular form, we must know the pronouns or the words that come under third person narrative. So, what are the third person singular pronouns? Under third person narrative, you have he, she, it. You also have the word they, but the word they is not singular. It is plural pronoun. So, you have 3 pronouns like he, she, it. Using any of these, we can construct a sentence. We can write a sentence here. I'll just take he. So, when any verb is used with third person singular subjects, that too in the present tense, simple present tense, we have already learned that it takes yes. So, he begs him for money. He begs him for money. And next is base form, third person, past tense. So, in past tense you have he begged him for money. He begged him for money. And next, past participle. In past participle you have he had begged him for money. He had begged him for money. So, next is present participle. Present participle. So, in present participle you can write like he is begging him for money. So, you can observe the verb beg. When the same verb is used with third person singular form, it has taken yes to it. We have added s, and in the past tense it has taken ed form, and past participle again the same verb has been retained and same ed form has been retained, and in the past participle you have ing form. So ing form of this verb. So ing form of the verbs are used in present participle. So we'll talk more about this. Let's see sentence examples for irregular verb. So first thing, base form. So for base form you can write I take medicine. I take medicine. So next is third person singular. If you were to construct a sentence using the third person singular, so we have to have any of the third person singular subjects. So they are he, she, it. Here I'll take she. I take medicine. So she takes. Again the verb has taken. Yes, when it is used in the simple present tense with third person singular subject. She takes medicine. She takes medicine. And next is past. She took medicine. She took medicine. And next is past participle. In past participle you can say she had. The verb take has changed its form as took in the past tense, but whereas in the past participle this has been changed as taken. She had taken medicine. This sentence she had taken medicine is written in past perfect tense. So the last one is present participle. So how do you write present participle? She is taking medicine. She is taking medicine. So now the last one, she is taking medicine. Here the verb taking is present participle. So for present participle it is same whether the verb is regular or irregular, it takes ing form. It takes ing. Here I have told you one thing, that present participle. So in present participle all main verbs, principal verbs will have ing form. So let's talk about this ing form of the verbs now. Okay. Here I have written two examples, two sentences. First one, I am reading a fabulous book is one sentence. Reading is my favorite pastime is another sentence. Now you just tell me what is common in both the sentences. Yes, I know you can answer. The verb used in both the sentences, reading, is common. Though these two verbs are common, these two verbs are same, though they express the action in these two sentences, there is a slight difference in the usage of these two verbs. There is a difference between the role they play in these two sentences. So what is the difference? So what is the role they play? Here in the first sentence, I am reading a fabulous book. Yes, in the first sentence it shows action. So it is verb action that shows the action. In the second sentence, reading is my favorite pastime. Though this word reading is a verb, here no action can be seen in the second sentence. And this verb is used in the place of a noun. This verb reading is used in the place of a noun or a subject. So it is used in the place of a subject. So the difference is, in the first sentence, this word reading, a verb, it shows an action. So it is a verb action. In the first sentence, reading is a verb and it is an action word, since it expresses or it is used here to denote the action of this subject. It is a verb action word. Whereas in the second sentence, this word reading, though it is a verb in common, Here, since it is used in the place of a noun, it plays its role as a verb noun. In the first sentence, this verb is an action word, whereas in the second sentence, this word reading is a verb noun since it is used in the place of a noun. Not only because it is used in the place of a noun, it is called verb noun, but also it plays its role as a noun in the second sentence. A verb noun also called gerund. So, what is a gerund? A gerund is a verb with ing. So, a gerund is ing form of the verb, like reading in the second sentence, that plays its role as a noun. So, ing form of the verb, if it is used as a noun or if it plays its role as a noun or a subject in a sentence, that is called as verb noun or gerund. I hope you have understood the difference between ing form of the verbs and the gerunds, the verb noun. So, you cannot call this reading in the first sentence, you cannot call it as a gerund because it is not used in the place of a noun, it is used in the place of a verb itself. But whereas in the second sentence, this word is used in the place of a noun and it does the work of a subject of a noun. So, that is the reason why it is known as gerund. So, let us see a few examples for this gerund. So, let us see the examples for gerund. So, gerund is an ing form of the verb that is used in the place of a noun and that does a work of a noun. So, here in the first sentence you have running is fun. Run is a verb, action verb, but here running is used in the place of a subject and this does the work of a subject. So, the word running is verb noun here and thus it is called a gerund. Running is fun. Again, swimming, a physical action, but it is used in the place of a noun. So, it is a gerund. Swimming is my passion. Next one, reading. So, reading is an action, but here it is used in the place of a subject or a noun. It does the work of a noun. So, it is a gerund. Reading is relaxing. Similarly, writing is an exchange of ideas and seeing is believing. So, these are very few examples for gerunds. So, in today's session, we have seen the difference between regular and irregular verbs. We have also seen a few examples for regular and irregular verbs, and we have understood the difference between present participle verbs. They are ing form of the verbs and gerunds. Let me conclude this session here, and in the next session we will continue with auxiliary verbs. We have completed main verbs. We have discussed this in detail. So, in the next session, let us see auxiliary verbs in detail and another two kinds of verbs, transitive and intransitive verbs. Thank you.